Hello, this is Atomica Crow speaking. Recently, I've just finished reading the sixth novel translated of Durara, and I have really thought about it. What fun is watching anime if you cannot guess what's going to happen next? And what's more fun than guessing who's going to die? Haha, I'll be honest with you, I have tagged many characters for death before. It's simple, really. I'll take you through a series of steps on how to tag a character for death. Maybe it's not so simple. Step 1. Analyze their relationship with the protagonist or any other important character. Typically, the supporting role or character's best friend. I tend to tag these characters for death because I often expect someone to die in the types of animes I watch. From previous shows I have watched, and with no help from Dragon Ball Z, I found that the characters who are very close and loyal to the protagonist, or even the antagonist on rare occasions, die to either trigger some sort of power, create plot, drama, or character development. Usually the character they are very close to often gives hints. For example, if the protagonist is a very cowardly, weak character, then the death of someone close will trigger a character change and lead the protagonist to become something stronger in order to defeat the bad guy. If the protagonist has anger issues such as perhaps a Yangai or a Yandere, they may end up killing the character themselves, but only on very rare occasions. Step 2. Put yourself in the writer's shoes. Would it be more interesting if a certain character died? Would it be more interesting to kill off the most lovable character in a show? Put yourself in the writer's shoes. If you could control who lived and who died in the show, who would you kill? Would it make sense? Why would you do it? Would it make sense to the story? If you find that the death of a character just seems to make sense, then they'll probably die. Step 3. Realize their past. If a character suffers from a dramatic blow to the heart or to the head, then it's more likely going to result in it rising up to the present and affecting the character in some way. More often than not, however, their past may seem to be used more for character development than actually killing the character, but it is possible to do it for both. If the character was a part of something, for those of you who know me well, exactly know who I'm talking about, before, then it is possible that for it to be the death of them, it is also possible if most of their friends or family are evil. If the character has been evil previously before and is the opposing gender of the main character, you might want to check step 1 and 2 to really take a guess, because it's more likely they won't die and instead fall in love with the protagonist. If they are of the same gender, however, the character in question is more likely to die unless they are close to another main character, unless they are only used for the second main character's development. Step 4. Examine their personality. A character who is cheerful and generally innocent and happy is more likely to die than a character who is dark, emo, and somewhat depressed. Usually the cheerful, innocent character is very close to the protagonist, and it often leads to the said character's death or for the protagonist to overcome and develops character traits not seen so much before. If the character is dark and emo, they still have a chance of dying, but then again, every character does. In a sense of lightness, if a dark emo character dies, it's usually dramatic but somehow enlightening to them. Oftentimes, it will be for the main character's sake, but only if the character is really close to the protagonist. Usually this is the case, and depending on the character, giving their life for the protagonist may be the only way to seek enlightenment, but that's only if the character smiles only when the protagonist is around. Step 5. Keep a record. If a character you weren't expecting to die is killed off, that usually means another character you won't expect to die will also pass on. Find the character who is least likely to die at this point and mark them for death. It may be a couple of deaths and a series before you find out whether you're correct or incorrect, but at least you'll keep watching to see if they die or not. Step 6. First impressions are everything. No matter what they say, if the character immediately comes off as, "I'm going to die," they're probably going to die. Step 7. Keep an eye on the other characters. If the character seems to escape death by not fitting into the previous steps above, then keep an eye on the other characters. Is there a mass murder on loose? Is there a crazy person? Is any other character a Yangai or Yandere that the character may seem to know? Is there a clumsy character who always seems to mess up? If the character knows any crazy, delusional, messed up characters, they may be murdered. Step 8. Episode focus. If the episode seems to focus on a character who is not the protagonist, it may mean the character might die. It is actually a slimmer chance than I let on, but it does tend to happen. Usually it's an origin story more than anything, but it's possible that the character may also die. Step 9. Foreshadowing. Usually, it's obvious when the writer foreshadows a character's death. However, if it is directly said by another character, usually the antagonist, the character in question will not die. But if it is implied through narration, dreams, thoughts, or any indirect words, they might die. If the character agrees to a promise of some sort, such as traveling with the protagonist, then, depending on the age of the character, either the protagonist or the character will die. Foreshadowing may be implied through narration, directly or indirectly. Often, if the character says so-and-so is going to die, well, chances are they're going to die. Step 10. Self-admitted death. Usually performed by the main character. Oftentimes they will admit, hey, if I do this, I'm going to die, then decide to go ahead and do it anyway, they're probably not going to die. But if the character states the danger casually, such as, well, I heard that if you make a wish here, you have to sacrifice something. Usually in that situation, however, it's another sacrifice. But the only time the protagonist will die is for the sake of other characters. If they make a promise to a younger character, they'll probably just die for some dramatic sense. However, 1 out of 20 shows allow the protagonist to die, so it's most likely not going to happen. But the most likely way the character will die, if what was explained in this step won't occur, then the main character will just die randomly at the end. Step 11, plot. Usually the plot gives away everything: who's going to die, who's going to live, who's going to fall in love, all that sort of stuff. If the story is about a group of people who go into the police where no one gets out alive, I can almost guarantee you only the main character and maybe their lover will escape, but only the protagonist doesn't kill themselves at the end. So those are a few steps you can take to decide whether a character will die or not. Now, just for kicks, I will list to you who I had marked to death in my previous anime watchings. List of characters I have tagged for death. Number 1, Kira Masomi from Durara. I tagged Masomi for death because of his first impression, personalities, and closeness to the main character. Later on, as the series progressed, I sort of felt Masomi was less likely to die than Mikado, only because he claimed to have leaned on Mikado more than anyone realized. Since he had only vowed to protect Mikado from the darkness of the city, I later changed my mind that Masomi was not going to die. Kishitani Shinra, Durara, current. Currently, I have Shinra marked for death because of his attempt to protect Celti from a flashbang in the 5th/6th novel. I think it's foreshadowing more than anything that Shinra may end up dying to protect Celti, but since he's still around in the 9th novel, or so I heard, I'm guessing he won't die until near the end. I'm assuming it's going to be Izaya that will kill him, since Izaya and Shinra are each other's only friends, not including Celti. Tobue, Wolf's Rain. His character was too innocent and too close to Sune for him not to be tagged for death. His relationship with Sune and Sune's personality could only point that Tobue would die for Sune's character development. Sune, Wolf's Rain. Alternatively, I was expecting Sune to sacrifice himself for Tobue. Everyone in Dragon Ball Z. After the first season, I was expecting a lot of deaths. However, I could just never tell when. Ginko Mushi-Shi, current. I think Ginko is going to die just because he's so amazing. I think it's weird, but with only 3 episodes left for me to watch, I think he's going to die. Ginko is such a calm, collected person who always finds alternative ways to have humans and Mushi live together. However, the promise made in one of the episodes and the close call in the last few episodes I just watched is enough to convince things are only going to get closer. The series, believe it or not, is episodic, so I can't exactly say he might die and may more expect the series to end randomly, but you can never really tell. Corona, Soul Eater. I tagged her for death because she was a character close to the main character. She was also previously a bad guy who only needed to be understood, which Maka, the protagonist, took the time to do. I was expecting her to die in return, especially since the things Maka had done for her. I didn't want her to die, but I was expecting it. Moses, Blood Plus. Just because he was so damn amazing. I didn't want him to die, but he wasn't the only one I had tagged. Too many characters had died in the series before, and I was expecting him to go as well because of his relationship with the dying character. I'll be honest, I didn't totally love him until near the end, but I also didn't tag him for death until he later became my favorite character. Riku, Blood Plus. When I tagged Riku for death, I had been having a really bad favorite character streak. It was rather depressing how many characters had died before I tagged Riku, but he was so innocent and cute and kind, and he had a few close calls, and he was super close to the protagonist. Orihara Izaya. Durara, current. He is too immortal to live. He's too strong, too powerful, and too loved for him to live. By loved, I mean the fans. Seriously, I'm expecting the writer to kill Izaya. After all, he's the one causing all this. I don't see the writer giving Izaya a change of heart, but if it does happen, I'm going to be rather disappointed. But I don't think that's going to happen. He's going to stay crazy until he goes down, if he ever does. But honestly, I'm going to tag him just because he's so mentally strong. Noah Kiba. I tagged him for death because of his sickness and his closeness to Zed, the main character. Also for the idea he kind of, spoiler, turned into a bad guy, so I was kind of expecting Zed to kill him, or for Noah to accidentally take his own life, or maybe for someone else to kill him. I don't know why I tagged him, to be honest, but I do recall tagging him for death. Killua Zoldyck, Hunter x Hunter, current. I tagged him because he's a killer on the outside, but really close to Gon. He's just so sweet and tries so hard to be a good guy just because he decided he didn't want to kill anymore because Gon didn't like it. So I tagged him for death. Reading the manga still, and I'm thinking I just might be right. I don't know yet, but I'm willing to bet on it. Agito, Origin Spirits of the Past. I tagged him because of the deal he made in the forest, and the fact that he seems to be in love with Tula. Honestly, I had no reason not to tag him. Those are some of the characters I marked for death in the past. Some are even current. Anyways, this is all I really have to say. Happy marking, happy tagging, and happy dying. Just don't die yourself, okay? I'll see you guys around. I'm Atomic Crow, and I am out.